So we have the bag, we have the pots, we have the tyres, and the garden centres have caught on to this idea of growing potatoes in containers. So they even have produced a potato growing bag, and it's no different to any of the other ideas that I had there, except that it's just ready-made with handles, and the potatoes are growing there. There's drainage holes in the bottom, so we can try that one as well, the same principle. And the seed potatoes that some of the garden centres have actually say, for example, this Carlingford variety, good for containers, very reliable. So there's 10 little seeds in that. They're a second early, so I'll put them in now. We're in the 18th of March. They'll come after the first early of the Colleen and the Duke of York, and so we'll have a succession of potatoes as they become ripe. Right, starting off with the flower pot type containers. They're robust enough for me to mix in the container a little bit of compost from the compost heap, which looks like soil but it isn't soil, so it's quite rich, and we'll mix that in with some of the soil that's in this patch here, and mix it around before planting. Right, so we have ourselves ready with the pots and the mixture of soil and compost, and I'm going to put 3 small Carlingford seed potatoes in each. It could be actually too many, but sure, I'm going to use them up, no point leaving them unplanted. Even if we get small potatoes from them, there'll be a lot of small potatoes, which makes for a nice meal. I think baby potatoes are still what people tend to go for anyway. So we plant them down deep enough. Let me see, generally you plant a seed, you know, its height again, so you have to put enough over it to cover it, in other words about 2 inches down. So there's 3 going in here, space them out. Again, a good point to remember is it's already starting to grow, so the actual growing point is what we want to point upwards. If we put it the wrong way up, that growing point will want to grow and find the light, so it'll actually end up doing a U-turn and taking up a lot of energy trying to find the light. So we help it on its way by planting it the right way up. Right, potatoes are planted. I'm going to put the pot in the location which will be its final place until we harvest. It'll be out of the way there, but it's a south-facing garden, so I'm hoping that it'll be sunny enough. Essentially a good sunny spot is what we're looking for, and this will get sunnier as the summer comes up and the sun is high above us anyway, so they will do there, and I'll locate the containers in other spots and we'll see how they compare. So we're moving on now to plant the potatoes in the less rigid containers like this plastic bag and this shop-bought potato growing bag, and that will involve first of all mixing the compost and the soil, which can't be done really in these bags. So we can either do it on the ground and mix them together, or else I have a spare old bin here and I can mix it in that and then pour it into the bags, and that'll be just as good. Well, this compost has been dug out from the compost container there. I've taken out bits of sticks and that weren't properly composted, so the consistency is quite like soil, which will be easier to work. God, there are great healthy worms in this garden, look at that. Very, very happy and healthy worms.
And long ones.
Right, well, the bin has now been, I suppose, 3/4 filled with half compost, half soil, and probably easier said than done to mix them together, but anyway, I've started, so I'll finish. I'm going to use whatever is handy. Fork. This is something I bought for actually aerating compost. It's for sort of dragging up whatever's at the bottom and putting it on the top through this kind of old arrow principle. So we'll see how it works. Turn it around. It actually is quite good. Right, well, we're now at the point of putting the mix of soil and compost into, for a start, the black plastic bag. Of course, it didn't come with holes in the bottom, but we need to put a couple of holes in the bottom so that it drains if it gets overwatered at all. So I'm just going to stick it on the soil so the fork can go through and make a few holes. That should do it really. It doesn't need to be full of holes, just enough to let the water out. Great. Now filling up the bag at least enough to plant the potatoes, leaving space obviously to add to it as the potatoes grow. So we started off with a layer at the bottom. We can add in our seed potatoes, the three that have already, as I said before, shown sprouts. Point them up. We'll be putting in more soil, so I don't have to bury them. Just place them. At some point you feel like just pouring it in, to be honest. There's only so many shovel loads you can do. And so put that in its final position in a sunnier part of the garden and we'll see how that performs. Okay. Right, so all containers are planted. The tyres, the large flower pot containers, the plastic bag and the shop bought potato planting bag. So I have these in a pretty sunny spot, the sunniest spot in the garden in fact, the place where I'd sit out, and we'll see how they get on. All I need to do now is just water them in and remember to keep them watered